As the calendar turned from 1989 to 1990, this band came out of nowhere to keep rock and roll alive with a throwback sound that was fresh and lively. Up next, the lead singer and co-writer tells the story of one of their greatest songs on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If you love great music, this channel was made especially for you. Just subscribe below, do that right now. Make sure to hit the bell so you never miss out on our daily content. Also check us out on Patreon to help us develop more of this content and for more behind the scenes and more videos. You know, the first time I heard the Black Crowes, it was during a time of great awkwardness, not only in my life because I was a 13-year-old outcast about to start high school, still trying to figure it all out, but on radio in general. You know, mainstream music was in funk, boy bands, and overproduced dance music ruled the day, and with the 80s ending, the 90s was having this like identity crisis. It was still stuck in the 80s, but not the good 80s, the bad 80s. It was a weird time for sure. Enter the brothers Robinson, Chris and Rich, the Black Crowes. Shake Your Moneymaker was a breath of fresh air. And Chris Robinson's voice cut through the BS on the radio. Rich Robinson's guitar brought back, the feelings of old-time rock and roll and re-energized music with a soulful and no-holds-barred heart-raising passion and power that has rarely been bettered or equaled since. I had a friend recently relay a story to me. His little boy asked him, hey, Dad, what is rock and roll? What is it? Instead of answering the question, he just played him Shake Your Moneymaker.
Hey, little thing, let me light your candle, cause mama, I'm sure all the hand and just around.
Nothing could be more true. This band has a fire and intrepid spirit that is pure rock and roll. The album, of course, is a classic featuring songwriting that is real. It's alive in a plastic world. Whether then or now. The Black Crowes are simply the great rock and roll revival. Americana, honky-tonk, rock, and soul revival that gives medicine to the soul. Just makes you ache with joy. It's so great. After breaking out from that album with the second single, the great Otis Redding remake Hard to Handle, they released the mainstream rock track Twice as Hard. But it was their fourth single, the powerful ballad, She Talks to Angels, that cut me to the bone. The song went to number 30 on the Billboard Hot 100 at that time. Ann Wilson actually had an amazing version of this powerful song.
She keeps a lack of hair in her pocket.
It's meant so much to people who have struggled with addiction or have a loved one or loved ones who have been through these same trials. I had the chance to ask Chris Robinson personally about this in a recent interview. Here's the story of She Talks to Angels. Now, as we go into this interview, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the brand I always wear. When you get your eyewear from Zenni, you can say goodbye to foggy lenses and glare. You have Zenni's advanced 2-in-1 anti-fog and anti-reflective coating. This is one of the best features of this brand. You can design your own pair at Zenni.com just like I have. Here's Chris with the story.
If you had rhythm and some sort of harmonic resonance, that's hopefully why the songs stay in people's consciousness.
Well, it's like a song like She Talks to Angels. She paints her eyes as black as night.
She paints her eyes as black as night now.
Your voice on that song and the guitar, the dun 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 dun. It was a song that came at a moment in my life, at least, that it spoke to me in a different way. Tell me about that song, if you don't mind.
Well, it's a slippery slope because you're talking about the time of the great Power Ballad and like all these people, like, I don't know how serious you could take these songs when your hair looks like that. But the Power Ballad, again, there you are. It's some manipulative thing, that a record company could use as a formula to sell this, and it's coming. And like the songwriters and the musicians that I've felt just like the authors and just like the painters and the poets. Anything that I could connect to made me realize that no matter what, that it didn't have to be a lot, but there would be some or a few or just one person that felt that way. And I felt that way about, some things now that are more popular, but when you're a young kid, like if a girl came to my, where we lived or whatever, if she didn't like Madcap Laugh, Sid Barrett, then we weren't going on another day. If some girl said, I don't like Bob Dylan's voice, or like, I don't like jazz, like that was it. Like, we're not.
Can't do this.
Yeah,
I love
there's
it.
plenty of, this is real. This is important. If you can't see that, that's what your youth was made of. But it's funny in a weird way. Some of that stuff still exists. Either you've walked through the magic door, or you're just outside staring at the big sign that says entrance not for everyone. But again, I'm coming from, at the time, sad-eyed lady of the lowlands. Sad-eyed lady of the low. $1,000 Wedding, Graham Parsons. $1,000 wedding. Or it could be anything, right? Wild Horses. Wild horses. That's not a power ballad. It's a beautiful ballad. Something that would resonate past that formulaic. I think one of the main reasons that She Talks to Angels was a powerful song, at least the image and the lyrics and stuff, maybe is my naivete, because I had yet to really put my foot in the deep dark water of all that kind of life and drugs and stuff at that time. But the song, the image is based on a girl that I used to know in Atlanta, who was kind of like a goth girl who for all practical purposes, or for as much as I knew about her, would have been like one of the people in East Atlanta. I was like, oh, well, she's on heroin or whatever.
Yeah. Never mentions the word addiction.
I don't even know if that to be the case, to be honest with you. But that's at a time in my life where a lot of friends and a lot of stuff started to change, and people are, putting away childish things and more adult vices and adult freedoms are all causing all sorts of wonderful havoc and chaos and joy and sadness. So all that's going on. The Black Crowes operated all those years. My brother writes a lot of parts, or he did. So I arranged every Black Crowes song, Let's take this, and like that's the verse, and then this is the chorus. And
right.
We'll take this. So a song like She Talks to Angels, I'm really proud, but I do think it, but again, with the kind of popularity and stuff, I enjoy that song is everyone else's song. I get it, someone, and a song like that has a more melancholy theme. Mm-hmm. I've sat with a lot of people have cried to me about sad stuff that have happened, and I can take it. And and anytime that happens, I completely understand, because there's music that I go to when I'm hurting as well. And songs that really, like I said, it's all about connection, man. It's always about, not being alone, like being Mr. Crow's Garden started because there was one other dude in my school who like even knew who the Buffalo Springfield were.
Wow.
You know what I mean? At that time in 1983 or whatever. Or 82.
Stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Or who the Replacements were. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about making connections. And it's funny because, in this modern age with the internet and everyone thinks connections are so much easier, but I find it to not be the case sometimes, Part of those things were always in your hometown and your scene. You know, when I look around America today and I see how on one level, I'm just talking about the infrastructure. I'm not going to get involved in any more, you know. But you have all these towns and all these cities and nothing's going on. There's no music venues. There's nothing this. But you have all these kids and now people are into records and you have all this stuff. If I lived in a, you know, like Atlanta in the 80s, the one cool thing about it was if there was nothing happening, you made something happen. Yeah. My friends will bring records and play records. Well, my friend has a band and we're into this, and my friend has a band. Well, someone will get something together and we'll play these parties. Then you play parties and there's a few hundred kids there after a while. Then you can go play in clubs and then those kids are a little older and they come to clubs. You have to make stuff, you know, your energy. If you think no one else is into what you're into wherever you live, that's not true. There's weirdos out there, man. And it's funny because as we now, you know, we live in a time of great importance of status and you're only important if everyone knows who you are.
Social media.
Well, yeah, but that's also, you know, like our band, the Brotherhood, is based on this on a different idea. The music business would have you believe that everything is Coors Light, and that's just not the case. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
That's fine. There's music tourists. They can go see Billy Joel. They can go see Dave Matthews. You know what I mean? Like those are like those kind of big events for people. And then there's all this other stuff. You know what I mean? There's, you know, the craft beer movement was really important to me. I don't even drink beer anymore, but to see that people will line up to buy a beer that's more expensive and they'll only be able to get 2 bottles. Whereas other people are trying their hardest to sell them as many as they can for the least price or whatever. These people are saying, this beer is more expensive and you can only have this. And there's people lined up saying, that's what I want. But that's all of us, or some of us. Some of us, it's not acceptable to play whatever someone on a radio station says because some guy gave him some, you know, a new iPhone and took him to dinner at Nobu. Like, and now I got to listen to this music. You know, so some of us are existing in this other plane. And it's always been that way. Yeah. And there's young people and middle-aged people and middle-aged people like me. What am I? I don't know. I'm 50. What does that make me? Used to be middle-aged, thinking about, I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? So this is always happening. It's just, you know, we live in a time where there's not a lot of it represented in, like, you know, unless occasionally someone wanders onto some freak like me talking about it. You know.
What was it for you, whether it was a song or something that you saw or even somebody in your life that kicked open the door to your mind and made you want to go after music? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's a good one. Really, it all starts with my father playing folk music in the house, him playing it. Now, I don't know if my dyslexia or whatever, you know, mental issues at hand, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? And like in its inception, how that molded something. But my father's interest in folk, my dad was a folk singer after he was kind of like a Bobby Darin, bebop, rock and roll kind of singer. So to sit around, and my earliest memories are him, like, you know, with his Martin guitar out playing, you know, old, you know, whether it was Shady Grove.
Shady Grove, my little love, bound to go away, pick it down.
Or whether it was, you know, old murder ballads.
Sister, oh sister, let's walk the seashore.
Or old train wreck songs.
Watch old 97 roll.
Or songs for children, it could be anything. There was a mystical opening where this happens to people. It happens in all sorts of manner. But for me, the music opened up something, and the stories and the idea that my father, you know, this folk song is like from, you know, this is from England and this one's from Scotland and this is about this outlaw or this one's about this event that happened. I never felt that any of these things in these songs were antiquated or archaic or anything, you know, like they were, I could, for whatever reason, they were as alive as whatever was on the radio in 1970, 71 that I would hear in the car. So that's where the portal was open, that the initial ideas that this was something different and something cosmic, those seeds were sown just by singing in the house. Now that I'm older, I can see, or getting older, I can see that's a tradition. That was a beautiful tradition. Going to my first hootenannies with my dad, where the first time I saw someone play a pedal steel or someone play a fiddle and a banjo, and then having access to African mysticism in the Deep South as well. On the bus with my grandmother and some lady just humming gospel music to herself could also, that feeling would overwhelm me as well. The same feeling as my father playing that music. And that's the one cool thing about being Southern and my age, was all that stuff was still available for me with my imagination and focus. And it made sense. Other things, and still a lot of stuff doesn't make sense, you know, outside of the sort of, you know, realms that you feel comfortable in.
I wish I was born in the South, but I spent a few years there. And I remember somebody I met that was really into music and kind of introduced me to some bands that I never would have found without this person. And they told me, being a Southern man is what everybody wishes they could be. If Bruce Springsteen was a Southern man, he'd be like, if it was even possible.
Well, if Bruce Springsteen was Southern, it wouldn't be so annoying that he adopts a Southern accent.
Good point,
But I think
man.
he's done pretty well for himself, regardless of
Screen door slams, Mary waves.
Door slams, Mary's dress waves.
That's so Southern, you know. It's not,
I mean,
you know?
I am one of those people. I mean, my parents, you know, they fornicated and I was born, and it happened to take place in the South, and no one in their lineage seemed to want to leave that geographic area. So part of it to me just happens to be circumstance. Like I said, being from Atlanta gives me a unique perspective because I was from a place where African mysticism was ripe in the air. And if you were in tune and sensitive to those type of things. But again, you know, like this idea of, you know, music and those stories and those ideas, it was hand in hand as I got older with literature, with cinema, with art in general, you know. And all these things, to me, seemed to be on the horizon. They weren't going to happen for me in that, in Atlanta. I don't know if people have the same experience, and I don't look at it as a negative because there's still people that I love, and your upbringing's your upbringing. But I kind of sometimes, like I said, in my outsider dyslexic mind and what art represented, Atlanta was the place where everyone said, no, you can't, and no, you won't. So, you know what I mean? In a weird way, that's kind of Pavlovian, built into you. Like that was the place where everyone said, none of these. It's not about success, you know, not about those things. But I think it was in terms of more other people's maybe lack of perception or perspective, I think would be better. In terms of like what their lives would be, and like just, you know, to some people who have no wanderlust, it must be terrifying and lonely and horrible. Like, oh my goodness, you know. But it's farther from the truth if you are possessed of poetic nature.
Hey, thanks for watching. Leave us a comment about this amazing composition and the Black Crowes. What does this song mean to you? Tell us in the comments below, what are your memories of when this great album came out? Now, if you like this content, we invite you to subscribe below right now to get the Black Crowes' classic debut on vinyl. Click on the links below. Also, look us up on Patreon for even more content. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe out there.